Okay. Well, welcome everyone to Thrive with the Wellbeing Wheel. I'm Beth Northuis. I'm the Assistant Director for Fitness and Wellness.
And I'm Cari Robertson. I'm the Director of Health Promotion and Education.
And we are here today to just guide you through the well-being wheel here at Western. So what is well-being? At WMU, we define well-being as making lifelong choices, learning and applying skills to meet one's own physical, social, it's blocked off here. Oh no. Physical, social, spiritual, intellectual, occupational, emotional, and environmental needs, demonstrating resilient behavior, including the ability to become strong, healthy, or successful when faced with obstacles and challenging situations, includes the ability to adapt and be flexible when responding to change.
So wanted to just share, the session is about the well-being wheel, and we're really excited that recently WMU decided to adopt a consistent well-being model at Western. And we have had many committees and groups and efforts throughout the last few years on our campus for employee and student wellness. And you can see a few of them listed here, but we have been using kind of our own frameworks and not necessarily using the same one. So over the last year, we have been talking about pulling these groups together and connecting with the Think Big initiative that is really focusing on how we can maximize our efforts for student employee wellness. And we looked at several national models and frameworks when developing the wellness wheel that we're going to share with you today. And we were really excited to build upon what we've known for many years in the wellness field, that wellness is multidimensional, and we've selected 8 dimensions in the past to focus on, but we're also looking at some additional components that we're going to share today. And we looked at the National Wellness Institute and multicultural wheels, identity wheels, social determinants of health, and this Okanagan Charter, which you can look up if you are interested, but it really does empower and advocate that higher ed institutions, so universities and colleges, really call to action that we should be embedding health into all aspects of our university operations, in our programs, and everything that we do for employees and students. And so we just wanted to let you know that this wheel was definitely researched well, and we're really excited to reveal it to you today. The purpose of this is really to support individuals and our whole campus community. So we have a way that we are going to be promoting this to support individual employees using this wheel, that they can use that for enhancing their own choices and how they navigate their path to wellness. That will also be used for students. And then more for a community and systems wide approach to advancing health and wellness on our campus. We are definitely rolling it out as much as possible. So students got to see this wheel in orientation this summer. Also, the students that chose to sign up and enroll for the first year experience seminar course, they are seeing this wheel and using it for their whole curriculum this semester. And lots of different offices are starting to use it more for virtual programming and in-person programming. But as you know, we're mostly virtual right now. So Western Wellness, this is for employee wellness, we're using it today, but also throughout the whole expo, and university recreation, health promotion, dining service, res life, and many more are starting to use this. So we really encourage you as an employee to use it for yourself to enhance your own well-being, which we'll go over some strategies to do that today. But also, if you're interested as a unit or an office in using this more, please get in touch with us.
So reading the well-being wheel here, you can see that there's individual factors as well as external factors. So individual factors, we're going to start with identity. So the identity represents the person's intersectionality of identity. So that could be race, gender, sexual orientation, their age, religion. So anything that is going to be able to personally identify that individual. The colorful pieces that are inside of the wheel represent the 8 interconnected dimensions of our individual personal wellness. So we'll go into a deeper dive of those different 8 areas here as we move along through this presentation. The outer ring here is our external factors, and those represent the determinants of well-being that go beyond our individual factors and outside of our individual control. So as we move through this presentation, Cari and I will do a deep dive into that outer ring and go through those different areas.
So the first thing we want to make sure that we have a good understanding of these 8 dimensions and how they fit in and how they can be balanced to really move forward in maintaining and improving a person's wellness. So the first 2 dimensions, I'll talk about social wellness. So it's very important. Humans are meant to connect with other humans, and that social component is really important to building healthy relationships and supporting each other through life. Emotional wellness is very connected to social as well, but our mental health, our emotional intelligence, and how we deal with our feelings and reactions to things that happen in life, our coping skills, and how to really share our feelings with other people effectively. Intellectual wellness, it's really healthy, also for mental health, to make sure that we're challenging our mind and using our brain in different ways throughout our lifetime. So being able to get involved in creative activities, learn new things and skills, professionally develop and advance our intellectual growth there, solve problems, and explore interests and hobbies. And it does connect well with occupational wellness and our career exploration. People get a lot of satisfaction by feeling like they've contributed throughout a lifetime to a career, or find joy through work and using their strengths to use their talents to make a difference.
Moving on to spiritual wellness. So discovering the sense of purpose and meaning in your life, developing your ethics, your values, and your worldviews, and then figuring out how to align those actions to be consistent with your own beliefs and values. Financial wellness is developing knowledge and skills for managing financial decisions, finding balance between spending and saving. Moving on to environmental wellness, so occupying and improving safe and healthy, sustainable environments, contributing to environments that are inclusive and free from harassment and discrimination. Physical wellness, practicing healthy behaviors regarding physical activity, nutrition, sleep, substance use, sex, preventative exams, and the list goes on. So learning when to seek medical attention and managing those chronic conditions for you. So moving into our activity that we have for the 8 dimensions of well-being, I want you to think about assessing your current satisfaction level in each of the 8 dimensions that Cari and I just discussed. And thinking about, do you feel balance between those 8 dimensions? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So we're going to go into this little activity. It was one of the attachments that was provided. So this first one here, you can see that all 8 dimensions are listed on the outside of the wheel. And you can see that there's hash marks in each of those cross sections for you. So 0's in the middle, working its way out to 10. And we're going to guide you through a couple different steps here. And we're just going to ask that you place a dot on each spoke that indicates your level of satisfaction for that specific element of the wheel. And like I said, 0 would indicate no satisfaction, and a 10 would indicate your highest degree of satisfaction.
So we're going to go through each of the dimensions, like Beth said, and feel free to pause this recording if you need a little bit more time to think and reflect on these questions. So for emotional well-being, find that spot on the wheel and your spokes and think about how you're feeling about your skills and ability to cope effectively with life and create satisfying relationships at this time. On a scale of 0 to 10, do you feel happy, satisfied, and interested in life? I am flexible and adapt to changes in a positive way. 0 being that you don't feel like that very often right now, or 10 being you're definitely able to do that? Are you able to balance family, friends, and other obligations? And do you take time to reflect and or practice mindfulness? And for environmental well-being, this is about occupying pleasant, stimulating environments that support your well-being. Some things to think about here for your rating yourself between a 0 and a 10. I set aside time to enjoy nature. I tidy my home and workspaces in order to prevent clutter and stay organized. I like where I live and feel safe in my environment. And I practice environmentally conscious behaviors such as recycling, conserving energy, and some other activities. All right, find the financial well-being. Am I needing to speed up, Beth?
It's a timer on this and I forgot to take it off. So that's my bad.
That's all right. We got to laugh, right? So for financial well-being, this is your satisfaction with your current and future financial situation. So it's about balancing spending and saving. Would you say you have, on a scale of 0 to 10, enough money to manage your current expenses? I have money on hand or available credit to deal with moderate unexpected expenses. My savings are on track with my life goals, such as home ownership, college expenses for my children, and retirement. And I do not worry about money and am able to balance wants and needs. So give yourself a score on the spoke for financial well-being. Intellectual well-being, again, is recognizing creative abilities and finding ways to expand your knowledge and skills. Some things to think about here. Do you make an effort to learn new things? I try to keep on track of current affairs locally and nationally. That's a little different right now. There's a lot going on. So keeping that balance for stress in an election. I practice something each week to improve my skills and use my gifts and talents. Everyone has a unique gift and talent, and many of them. I try to seek more than one side of an issue, especially those that are controversial.
Okay, so moving on to occupational well-being. So personal satisfaction and enrichment from one's work. So finding that spoke here, again, we're rating these on a 0 to 10 scale. So I'm happy with my career choice. My work gives me personal satisfaction and stimulation. I effectively handle my level of stress related to my work and responsibilities. I am happy with the balance between my work and my leisure time. Again, thinking back through this, rating it on that 0 to 10 scale. Physical well-being. Recognition of the need for physical activity, healthy foods, and sleep. Finding that spoke here, and we'll get started. I eat a balanced diet, fruits, vegetables, low, moderate fat, and whole grains. I get adequate sleep and have energy throughout the day. I engage in physical activity regularly. For example, 30 minutes of physical activity, 5 days per week. And I avoid tobacco products. Moving on to social well-being. So developing a sense of connection, belonging, and a well-developed support system. I have a network of friends and family. I regularly spend time with people I like. I communicate effectively with others, share my views, and listen to those of others. Have a sense of belonging with my community. spiritual well-being, a sense of purpose and meaning in life. I can name my own personal values and beliefs. I use prayer and meditation or quiet personal reflection regularly in my life. Life is meaningful for me and I feel a sense of purpose. When I get depressed or frustrated, I draw on my beliefs and values to give me direction. So at this time, we can go into a little self-reflection here. I'll ask these questions, but this will be something that you can do on your own. You can pause this and reflect further if you'd like. So looking at your wheel, is your wheel round or does it show flat spots? So if you connect the dots around the wheel, you can kind of see how balanced your wheel is. So let's take a second to reflect on that. If this was a real wheel, how bumpy would the ride be for you? Would your circle be able to make it and go around, or would it be in a flat spot and not be able to move successfully? Are there areas of your life you desire more attention? Maybe it's in, one area that's really flat, looking to bring that number up for yourself. In what dimension would you like to see more satisfaction? Is there an area that maybe you were kind of surprised that your number wasn't higher? That's a good goal for you to set for the improving our wheel. So Cari and I are going to move on, but you can take a few more minutes if you'd like to reflect.
All right, so we're really excited to include the outer ring of our well-being model as we work to support employees and students more at Western around well-being. So we know that individuals, we ourselves have a lot of choices and decisions and attitudes and knowledge that we can gain to help us improve and maintain a healthy lifestyle and a healthy life in general. But there are also things that through research have shown to be just as important in maintaining a person's health and wellness through a lifetime and having a high quality of life. And that is what we're trying to represent in this outer wheel, as Beth mentioned at the introduction. But we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into that so you can understand that a person could make the best choices and eat healthy and work out and address these and have that wheel that's balanced. And they could still live in an environment or in a society that has policies, procedures, and conditions that make it really challenging to still maintain health for a lifetime. So that's what we want to talk about with exploring the outer wheel, and that it is something that is not necessarily always in our direct control, but we can influence these things through advocacy. If we're a leader in an organization or how we lead our families and our communities, we can impact the outer ring. And we can also get involved by voting or civic engagement or challenging the systems and asking questions that can really set up this outside of the wheel to be focused on ways to support health and wellness. So we want to go through kind of each of the sections of that outer wheel one at a time. And the first one is equity. So this is about whether we live in a system, community, or work in an organization that really has the interest of each person set up so that they can get the support they need. And so what we find is sometimes inequity, that not everyone has access to the support that they need. Sometimes that's based on things that are outside of their control. So gender, race, different socioeconomic status. So it's important to think that equality is different than equity. So if we offer the same thing for everyone, that does not always mean that everyone gets the support they need. And so this is about social justice. And there are a lot of studies that show that health is impacted by equity. And recently, as a nation, racism was declared a public health crisis. And so when we work on addressing equity, we are promoting an overall well-being advancement for the people that live in our society. There are lots of different studies about race-based stress and how stress can impact higher risk for certain health conditions and health disparities based on different types of equity or inequity that is experienced. So we feel it's important to keep working on making sure that our campus is diverse, inclusive, and equitable. So that does impact the wellness of everyone. It goes along similarly with the community that we live in. And so our campus community, and we have a culture at Western. So what is our culture at Western, and how does it promote health? How does it create barriers to health? And how can we work to advance so that we can remove those barriers for everyone? When it comes to people's cultures that they were born into, or the communities they choose to live in, or that they do live in, whether it's their choice or not, those social and cultural norms and expectations can be different for different people, depending on where they come from or where they are right now. And so it's important to understand that the path to well-being can be different for different groups. And we should pay attention to what those things are so we can help be supportive. We need to recognize what we have in common, because we do have differences, and we want to make sure that people are recognized for the differences that they have, and differences are good. It would be boring if everyone was the same in the world. So how do we make sure that the differences that we have don't become barriers for wellness? And how do we make sure we pay attention to what cultural differences make a difference for people when it comes to their ability to live healthy and well as they go throughout their lifetime? For the part of the external or the outer ring of our well-being wheel that deals with socioeconomic conditions and access, this is really important when it comes to access to healthcare. And so you may hear a lot of things about whether or not different communities or systems are set up to make it easy for people to access the care they need if they do become ill or have health challenges. And how are those resources distributed within a community or a system or an organization like a university, and looking at that to make sure that that is really supporting people to achieve health and get the health care that they need when they need it. It also is important to note that sometimes these barriers are related to even basic needs. So food security, how available and costly is it to get fresh fruits and vegetables in an area, and looking into that, and healthy and clean access to safe water sources. And then even how often and what are the messages? How easy is it to get reliable and accurate health information per community?
So moving on to sustainability. So focus on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. So in this picture, you can kind of see we have the planet, which is our environment, people, which is our social, and then we have our profit, which is economical. So all of these three things really need to work together in order for us to have a sustainable environment to be living in and growing in. And so if you think about how each of those play a crucial part in our life, we really need one and also need the other two to have that successful environment. So we talk about those three pillars of really knowing how they intersect here, and how economic, environmental, and social, they're part of our everyday life, and how we need all those things to really work together and be connected. Living and working environment. I thought this was a really interesting one when I was doing the research on it. So there's two separate definitions here. The living environment is an assembly of the natural and built environment which is offered to the inhabitants of the place, who performs various kinds of social, cultural, religious, economic, and political activities. So this is your home environment. You can't always pick who you're living with in your family, but that's your home environment. It can be positive, it can be negative for you. It could be something that's more stressful, or you might find your solace there and it's a more relaxing environment. But with each person, everyone's going to have that different living environment that, you know, they're growing up in or living in currently. And then on the flip side of that, we look at our working environment, and it's the setting, social features, and physical conditions in which you perform your job. These elements can impact feelings of well-being, workplace relationships, collaboration, efficiency, and employee health. So just like at home, we can also have that positive or negative environment in our work environment, whether it's working long hours, maybe it's having frustrations with a coworker, or maybe not having, you know, the right equipment to successfully do your job. Those are all things that are going to play into that environment. So if our living and working environment can be balanced, how does that really affect our well-being? If one's out of whack, how does that really play into our overall health and well-being? If we look at that wheel, is maybe our environment something that we could be working on in one or both of those areas to help our overall health and well-being? Looking at public and organizational policy. So this is kind of what Cari was talking about, how being active in voting and knowing the, you know, what's going on in our communities can really be, you know, something that's going to help your well-being. So looking at public policy and organizations, looking at what the government is deciding to allow and disallow, and knowing how is that going to affect your overall health and well-being. Maybe it's limiting your access to something, or maybe it's giving you more access. And so understanding, you know, what's going on publicly with those different laws and different organizations can really be that help or hindrance for you if you're choosing to educate. But also, you know, being able to help others that might also be affected by that. So having a broader sense of understanding for those different public and organizational policies can really go into that overall health and well-being. So our second activity here is the circles of my multicultural self. So again, this was an activity sheet that I sent out. If you need it, we can definitely get it to you after this presentation. But looking at this, I want you guys to really think about first placing your name in that center circle. And then from that, there's 4 other circles. So the next step would be to write an important aspect of your identity in each of those satellite circles. So an identifier, a descriptor, something that makes you feel like it defines you as a person. It can include your gender, your ethnicity, maybe your role in your family. It could be your job. It could be anything that you feel like identifies you. And so, for example, my name is Beth. I'm a female. I work in fitness. I'm a sister, and I'm also an aunt. So those would be different descriptors that I could put into my different circles. For you, it might be something different. But take a second here if you need to pause the video to fill in your circles and reflect. There's some follow-up questions that I will guide you through as well. So going into the reflection of our multicultural self activity, I want you to think about a time you were especially proud to identify with one of the descriptors you used above or in your circles. I want you to think about a time it was especially painful to be identified with one of your identifiers or descriptors. But I also want you to think about a time that you were proud to be identified by one of those descriptors. I know that's not on our sheet, but I also think it's good to think about both sides of the coin. And then name a stereotype or association with one of the groups with which you identify that is not consistent with who you are. I want you to fill in the following sentence. I am a or an blank, but I'm not a blank. So take a second here and think about that. Again, if you need to pause, feel free to pause as Cari and I are going to move on. So kind of just wrapping this up for you all. This is our different social media accounts for the Student Recreation Center as well as the Health Promotion Office. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, or one of our websites. And then if you guys have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to either Cari or I over email. But at this time, if there are any questions, I'm going to stop recording and then you guys are able to ask away. Thank you all for joining us today.
Beth, can I say one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
Are you still recording?
Yes, I am. Would you like
It just occurred. Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, in addition to questions about the presentation, I think I would just add that as we think back to the WMU Wellbeing Wheel in both the 8 dimensions and the outer ring, we have so many resources and programs and services at Western that can support you or your students in getting that balance. So please check out these websites or email us if you have questions about how you can get involved or find support for yourself or others when it comes to the 8 dimensions or the outer ring.
Okay, now we're stopped recording.